because originally we are supposed to say it is English, not English. But nevertheless, so here the learners are exposed to the language in their school, college, even family and neighborhood. So they try to imitate people around them. So if imitation is proper, they are rewarded. Example, if we, give candy treats to our children, if at all they say their rhymes or their alphabet properly, or maybe a doggy if they do their certain tricks. So in this way, you have to appreciate. And if at all there is an error, we have to rectify immediately. So this is the behavioristic view. So moving on to this cognitivistic view of learning, so they feel that only by imitation you cannot learn a certain language. So you have to repeat it. So I'm very sure most of us students and us we being students also. So we usually don't forget our tables. Why? Because we keep on repeating over and over. So even if you ask me middle of the night what are the tables of 12 and etc. So we are able to recall. So this is basically challenging your memory over and over again. And of course, if you keep on going back to those templates, definitely we will never forget that. And we all form a certain hypothesis. So what is hypothesis? The way or behavior or a cognitive view to approach a language. For them, language learning, it's exposure to the language. So confirmation, reformulation of the hypothesis. So we at last we find the procedure. So there are various steps in acquiring the language, and out of that, the procedure is very important because you will get the end result whether you have done your job or not. So you can give a feedback form, and not only for the teachers and also for the student. So it is usually one encourages to have one-on-one session with the students, so that you will come down to them in a humanistic approach. So that is a better approach. Moving on. So in language pedagogy, we find basically the three principles. So that is a structural view, functional view, interactive view, and as well as a proprietary view. And last but not the least is CLT, that is communicative language. So here, the very old and challenged method is called as a grammar translation method. So all this will form totally the basic 8 ways to approach or the strategies how you teach English language. Out of that, the first one is grammar translation method. So before that, I would like to talk to you about techniques. So what is a technique? So it's a specific strategy that we use in the classroom, isn't it? So it is a tool to obtain immediate result. So what really happens in the classroom is the actual teaching. So no matter if you teach from the textbook or from giving audio visual, taking audio visual aids or giving a questionnaire, that is a sort of technique. So it must be coherent with the method, and they must be in harmony with the approach. So some techniques can be found in different methods, whereas other ones are specific to for a given method. Regarding procedure, so any procedure there's a sequence. It is an ordered sequence of techniques. So first, if I tell first you do this, then you do that. So it is a lot smaller than a method, but definitely this is a sequence in a technique. So it can be understood as a set of actions, operations, and even strategies too, which have to be executed accordingly to a perception on how to obtain an expected result. In our case, learning the language perfectly or maybe error free. So if that is not achieved, the repetition always comes in hand. So this is the last component where it actually takes place in an actual classroom, and this is the best one because it is always a feedback phase. Now, let me tell you about Anthony Edward Anthony, who is he's a linguistic. So in about 1963, he's American. So he introduced three levels of conceptualization and association, and now which he has labeled as approach, method, and technique. So at each level, the techniques which he has given is kind of rather very elaborate and cumbersome at times. But after the technicalities are understood better, so we will move on to the method and how teacher will select a particular method or a technique or a strategy to teach the language is it is for her students who they pick up the language. And method, on the other hand, is this overall concept of presentation of teaching material. So it is based on an approach. So therefore, we can say that theory it is put into practice, and choices are made, and it can be taught, and the order of presentation of the content. So at this level, the techniques are in the actual classroom procedures are depicted. Why? Because there is a certain method which we apply in the classroom. So, and there is a famous linguistic as well. They are Richards and Rogers. So they say that it is, important or rather necessary for us to distinguish between the notions of method and approach, because these two might be confusing to the readers or the, especially the faculty. Say they usually don't refer to the same. So it is important to distinguish between approach and method, and we need to clarify the relationship. Before that, methods are classified into structural, functional. I'm just got to be there. I have skipped to that PPT. All right, fine. So in this method, we find structural, functional, proprietary, and interactive. So there is another linguistic called Goy. So he is a French Latin teacher who wrote about difficulties in learning